Hi guys, my name's Sarah. I am a knitter, independent yarn dyer, an all-round fibercraft lover from the southwest of England. If you'd like to follow me on social media, please check out my links below. In this video, this is one that I dyed and filmed back in July of this year. But it was a very long video and I couldn't be bothered to edit it until now. So in this video, we are going to be looking at how you can get two different outcomes on your yarn using exactly the same colours, but using two different dye techniques. In this first pot here, I believe it's moss green. We've got that in solution and we are dip dyeing 200 grams or two 100-gram skeins, hanks, however you like to call them, of 75-25 superwash merino and nylon. The dye was measured out in equal quantities, but it is now September, so don't ask me what those quantities were. And you can see me here just moving it up and down, in and out of the pot, round and round, just to make sure that all parts of the fibre and yarn here are being covered evenly with the dye. When you are dyeing with, when you're dyeing wool, I use acid dyes, which means you need to have an animal or protein-based fibre, such as wool or silk or nylon, but it doesn't work with plant or cellulose fibres such as bamboo or cotton. You need a form of acid, whether that be citric acid or vinegar. I use citric acid, and this pot has got citric acid as well as the dye in. And then you also need heat, so hence why we're cooking this on the hob. Once we have got most of the dye to clear, probably left that about 15 minutes or so, you can see we've just got a tiny bit of blues left in the pot. So we're just going to pop that in and allow that to soak up the rest of the dye. Just while it bubbles away there. So once that has happened, and you can see here the very clear distinction between the dyed yarn and the now undyed yarn. So once that has cleared, we are going to reset the pot, and we are going to add in our midnight blue solution, and we are then going to dip the other end of the yarn into that pot with a period or space of overlap, covering the green and the blue areas, so that we get a nice colour coverage across all of the yarn. When you dip dye, because you have got one part of the yarn in the pot more than the rest, you will find that one end of your yarn, the bit that's been in the pot the longest, is going to absorb more colour than that has not been in for as long. As you can see here, we're just removing that from the pot so that we can put that aside to cool. And as you can see, after probably 30 minutes of cooking, the pot there has cleared. You can see the bottom of the pot. We're now just going to tidy up any mess that I made, because I'm good at doing that. And then we are going to reset the camera position, and we are going to look at doing exactly the same colourway with green one end and blue the other, but in a completely different technique of applying the dye to said yarn. And then at the end we will compare and see how things are going. So as you can see, there's a small amount of water in the bottom of the pan, so it can move about, but the water level is not above the level of the yarn. And on what colour did I start off with this time round? Did I start green again? Oh, we've gone straight into the middle. Oh, that looks like the green. So as you can see here, I'm just sprinkling that on, and then I am patting the dye through using the back of a spoon. One of the differences in this method of dyeing versus the first method is I had measured out the dry dye powder before I added it into the water to make it into a solution. Here, as you can see, I'm just using the end of a spatula and doing this by eye, basically, throwing on some colour, see how it goes, patting it out with the spoon to spread it about a bit more. So it does mean that on this, doing it this way, I don't actually know how much dry dye powder I have added to the pan or to the yarn. I don't mind that there's bits of it splattered up into the bare yarn area here, because we are going to be putting green and blue on the same skein, so if it spreads about a bit, that's absolutely fine. That's the whole joy of using this dye technique. So here we go, adding on the blue. Is that midnight blue? Yes, that must be midnight blue. As you can see, they're just doing a gentle tap tap with the side of my finger on the spatula there, just to help get smaller amounts in different places, because that one seemed to plop on like nobody's business. And again, just mushing it all in with the back of a spoon, just to spread that colour around. Once we've got that set and coverage to the point that we're happy with, then we're going to leave that to cook. But as you can see, I'm just going in and making sure around the ties, the reusable zip ties I use, just making sure that we have got colour under there as well, so we don't end up with bare white patches. I probably should have put a bit more colour where they overlapped, looking back at this. Do I add more blue? I should add more blue. There you go, you can see that the colour is going through to the underneath. Cooker is on, leave that to cook, and then we will come back and flip to the other side. Oh, I haven't added my acid yet. Goodness knows what I was telling you all in this video. Oh, I think I was probably telling you all about how you're supposed to wear gloves so that you don't get dye all over your hands. You should also, and I am in this video, wearing a face mask, because you do not want to inhale dry dye powders. I don't believe they're poisonous, but let's face it, we don't want that sort of thing on our lungs. And I was also there just showing you the acid that I use, which is food grade. I believe I got that off of Amazon. Food grade citric acid. There we go. We can see that that has pretty much cleared. Still a little bit of green in there. I'm just going to turn the pan around. As you can see, I'm just doing this on my cooker top. So I've got two heat stove rings. What do you call them? Hob points. That's not what you call them, but anyway. So it's just across two of those, and on mine there is a difference in size between front and rear. So that's just flipping that round to make sure that the colour absorbs everywhere. That definitely needs flipping and some more colour adding, in my opinion. did I remember to do that. As I said, filmed this ages ago, so I can't actually remember what I was doing or what I did other than the dye process. And I think through this video I was talking you through everything, but it was like over half hour's worth of footage, and I was like, nobody wants to listen to all of that. But I am pleased to see that yes, I did flip the yarn, and we're going to reapply colour to the other side just to make sure we've got some even coverage. And of course, because it's blooming hot, we are using tongs, and again I've still not got any gloves on. I do regularly accidentally dye my hands all sorts of colours. I would have thought it would have stayed on my fingernails longer so I could kind of dye my own fingernails, but for some reason it doesn't seem to work like that. And not that I show you here, but I will be drying my spoon and my little spatula that I'm using to apply the dye before going into the next pot of colour, or even back into the same colour. You do not want to introduce moisture into your dry dye powders because it will cause them to clump. I'm just adding on some more green. Yeah, that needed more. I mean, it turns out nicely in the end, which you will see in a moment, but watching this back, if I was to do this same technique again, I would have added more. Because one thing you do need to remember is when your yarn is wet, the colours look darker than when they dry, simply because you've got the moisture in there from the water, just making it always appear darker. Another thing you never want to happen is to allow your water level to get so low in your pan that you scorch the yarn. I've never actually done that, but as you can see here, I've just added on a bit more water, rinsed out any pots that had any colour left in them and poured over, and then we'll leave that to cook. Once that has cooked through and the pan has cleared, we will then hang that up to dry and take a look at our finished yarn. And here we have. So this is the side-by-side comparison of the 4 skeins and then the 2 individual skeins. Which one was dyed in which pan? So on the left-hand side was our catering pan with the dry dyed powders, and then on the right-hand side it was our dip dyed. Which is your favourite? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Yeah, bye for now, guys.